that I'm not going to get things that aren't on it. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all had a great week. Today I wanted to talk about mindful shopping or buying mindfully or mindful consumerism. It's called a million different things, but all means the same thing, which is just mindfully spending your money, being conscious of where you're putting your money and ways that you can consume less, ways that we can help the environment and climate change slow a little bit. And I've just been thinking about this topic for a really long time because it is something that I'm actively practicing. I'm always looking for little ways to consume less or reuse and recycle. So this topic's just been on my mind for a long time, and I thought I would share some of the lessons I've learned with you all if you are on your journey into mindful consumption or just starting and have no idea where to start. Hopefully, some of these tips will be helpful. And I think we live in just such a consumerist, capitalist culture that mindful shopping is almost like a sense of protest against what is going on in the world, all of the consumerism, all of the damage that's happening to the environment, to workers across the world who aren't being paid fairly and who are in unhealthy work environments. So, whatever your reasoning behind wanting to start consuming more mindfully, there's a million good ones, and I think it's something that we can all aspire to in our own way. This is obviously not a comprehensive list of everything that we can do, but this is just what I've found helps me consume a little bit less and purchase mindfully. But it is something that you have to learn and practice. Our very capitalist, consumerist culture teaches us from a very young age that whatever you want, you can get, with very little thought into how we're actually obtaining these items, with very little thought into the effects that it'll have on our mindset, let alone our wallets and our debt, and with very little thought around what will happen to these products once we're done using them. And this cycle is really catching up to us. We can see it in the environment, we can see it in climate change, and if we look closely, I think we can really see the effect that this overconsumption and indulgence is having on ourselves as well. And I'm not saying any of this in any sort of judgmental capacity. I am definitely guilty of all of this. I know that there have been times where I've gone to a store, usually Target, and see something and I have to have it. It's so freaking cute, that whole concept that Target tells you what you need is definitely true in my book. And I'll go to the store, see something that I really, really, really want and feel like I have to have. And then a week or 2 weeks go by and I've completely forgotten that I even bought it. It doesn't spark that same joy that it did when I initially picked it up and saw it at the store. So this video is not to say that shopping is bad at all. Target is definitely like my happy place. I go there when I'm having a bad day. But once I started practicing mindful buying and just trying to be more aware of how and when and on what I'm spending my money on, I started noticing that the items that I bought and was bringing home really meant a lot to me, and it didn't matter how long I had owned it, it still continued to spark joy long after. So if you're on this mindful journey and you want to push against this capitalist system and society that has been pushed onto us, then keep watching for these tips. My first tip is just check in on what you already own. If you feel like going on a shopping spree, if you might want to refresh your wardrobe, or if you feel like you're missing items in your kitchen that you could really use and would help make your life a lot easier, just check out what you have first. And especially when it comes to clothing, if you go through what you already own, it'll stay fresh in your head when you're out running around, going to the different stores, and you can see if you can find items that complement what you already own or that can enhance your wardrobe. So you're not just buying duplicates of things, but you can actually expand your wardrobe in a way that uses what you already own while still getting that satisfaction of getting something new and fun and you that makes you feel really good about yourself. I once saw this really adorable jean jacket at a store And I knew I'd had one that was really similar, but I hadn't seen it in a while and thought I must have like given it away. And so I bought this new jacket, and lo and behold, literally weeks, maybe months later, I found the original one in my closet. So now I just own two of almost the identical jacket. And that's what I'm saying here, is that this video is not at all a judgment or telling you guys that you should feel shame for your purchases. I 100% am guilty of not doing any of these practices. And so as I'm realizing, oh, if I had just looked at my closet before I ran out with a friend to go shopping, then I wouldn't have done this. And I'm just learning from my mistakes. And now I just own two. I'll probably eventually give one away, but they're slightly different. So I still love them both very dearly, and I'm gonna hold on to it for as long as it's suitable and then just donate it when I'm done. My second tip is in that same vein, which is to make a shopping list before you leave the house. And if my partner was home and heard me say this in a video to you guys, he would laugh hysterically because I am so bad at sticking to a shopping list. I rarely ever stay on book when I'm at the store, but I always make a list. And I think having that list, I've learned, helps me control more of the impulse buys. Like, I already have a plan going into the store, but I do like to look around, and especially at the grocery store, if I'm just looking around, I tell him, like, I like to see what's calling to me and what my body is craving at that moment and sounds good. And he thinks it's all in my head. But regardless, we've found a middle ground, which is to stay mostly on the script, and I still can indulge. I can still get a couple things, or apples if I forgot to write apples down. I'm not going to be so strict on my list that I'm not going to get anything that I'm not going to get things that aren't on it. I'm not so strict with my list that I won't let myself buy things that aren't on the list, right? But having that list, having that starting point, just keeps me focused at the store and think about what I really need before I go out and start shopping. And at this point, I have found that when I do veer off the list, it is usually just for one or two things that are calling to me. So I'm not trying to take all of the fun out of consuming things. Bring you joy, it's part of our world, but we don't have to do it in a way that is kind of blindly just grasping at straws. This is just trying to be more mindful in our approach to what we are consuming and to what is bringing joy into our life. On that note, tip number 3 is to only buy what brings you joy. So remember when we all went through that KonMari craze a few years ago, and we all learned from Marie Kondo how to keep things that only bring us joy? Well, this tip is just an extension of that and uses the same method, but right from the start, right when you see it at the store. So the way I've started implementing this, because as I mentioned earlier, when I'm at Target, pretty much the whole place sparks joy for me. So what I've learned to do is pick something up, hold it in my bag, keep it with me for a while as I go through the rest of my shopping list, as I go through the rest of the store, checking things out, and then I come back to it and I see if it still sparks that same joy that it did when I first picked it up. And honestly, 8 times out of 10, maybe 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. And I find that, it's not as worth it as I thought, or I just decided I don't really need it. So I end up putting it back. And just that practice of doing things has probably saved me thousands of dollars and a ton of clutter in my house, because I have learned that not everything is going to keep that spark of joy. Just because it's super cute at Target and just because, you know, I love it, doesn't mean that it sparks joy. We can appreciate things and enjoy things and admire things without owning them. And I think that's a really important lesson for us to learn as we're trying to fight against this consumerist culture that we're in. And this next tip kind of applies mainly to things that are more expensive, but really can apply to anything, especially in this world where we online shop and can grab things in an instant and it'll be here in anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days. And we are so used to that instant gratification that we don't really think about what we're consuming at a certain point. So, this tip number 4, is that if you want something, try to wait a few days. And this tip is basically the same concept as grabbing something at the store and carrying it around with you for a while, but you can't really do that in an online shopping world. So when I'm shopping online, if I see something, especially if it's a little bit pricier, like $50 or more, I really do try to sit and wait on it. I think through it, and if I'm still thinking about it in a few days from now, then I'll buy it. And I've started doing this probably a couple years ago because, especially with COVID, my online shopping went really out of control. And I found that as soon as I decided I wanted something, I would just get it. But going back to all of the other tips, it wouldn't stick with me, it wouldn't continue to spark joy. I would completely forget that I had it, or it wasn't something that I actively used all the time, and it just began to feel really wasteful. So I started implementing this tactic to my online shopping approach just to try to consume less, spend less, be more mindful about what I'm buying. But if you think about it, it is really crazy. We've gotten so accustomed to that instant gratification of seeing something online and buying it immediately. And the internet is amazing. Again, I'm not trying to dump on online shopping or shopping in general. I think it's incredible that anywhere in the world you can find artists and creators and companies that are producing things that you could not get locally. And I do think in a lot of ways that is a really wonderful thing that has come to our world. Caveat being that if you can buy local, you should, because local businesses need support too, and we can't get everything online, but end of rant. The world is amazing. The internet is amazing. It really is. And I think it's a very cool thing that we can look at a store in the UK or in South Africa and see what they're putting out there. That being said, that instant gratification doesn't traditionally last. And scientists have done studies on this where the minute we purchase something, our attention and our draw towards it decreases almost instantly. And it's just become so easy with one click to buy something. And I just really wanted to start being more mindful about what I'm buying, where I'm buying it from, how often I'm buying things, and what I'm really using them for. The whole point here is to try to fight the urge for instant gratification for the assurance of long term gratification for something that you truly love. So, quality over quantity is another way of saying that, but really thinking about what you're consuming, what quality of joy it's going to bring you. Is it an instant joy, or is it going to be something long lasting that will bring you joy for years and years to come? And my last tip, tip number 5, is to bring your own bags to the store. This is probably the simplest tip, but a great way to lower your consumption of non reusable items. But in that same vein, I think the world is getting more accepting of this culture shift that we're all having against single use items and single use plastic. So more and more we're finding reusable items. Like I just got some reusable sponges. I've bought some microfiber cloths to use instead of paper towels. So I'm slowly trying to shift my house into one that is more reusable and less single use. But I'll just add a caveat here that I do still purchase paper towels. I have 2 pets and some things just call for a paper towel. But my hope is that in purchasing the microfiber cloths that I can consume less paper towels so that a whole chunk of paper towels can last me a very, very long time and I don't have to consume them in the same way that I used to. And I'll just end this video by saying that none of us are perfect. None of us really can be perfect in this society where we are taught to consume, where businesses and corporations are rummaging our environmental resources. And until they hold themselves accountable and take responsibility for the impact that they are having on our world, it's going to be really hard for us as individuals to make a very, very significant impact. So don't feel all this pressure to consume less and be perfect and only have reusable items. Just do what you can. Like in my case with the paper towels, I'm going to try to consume less paper towels, but paper towels are something that I need right now. And your circumstance might be different. There might be something else that is maybe a single use, or you need to consume it more often, and there's only so much you can do. So the point is not to be perfect. The point is to try and to put in effort. And the whole purpose of this video is that by thinking more mindfully about the way that we consume and thinking more mindfully about what we're purchasing, that will make a huge impact on the world and on our society. A friend of mine always says that we need to inform the market, and the way that we do that is through our power of purchase. That is where we can put pressure on these businesses and corporations to make changes, to create reusable, sustainable products for the things that we are accustomed to having. And as we can see, the world is shifting more in that direction. So we're doing a really good job at it. We just have to keep it up. By consuming and buying mindfully, we really can make an impact, not just on the world, but also on ourselves. I feel like my life is a lot more simple now. I'm not always going out and shopping in my free time. There was a time where every day I just walked down to the shops. I was living in a city, and that's how I would spend my afternoons, is shopping and spending mindlessly. And my life is much more simple now, but the things that I own and the things that I surround myself with really bring me joy and continue to bring me joy. And that has made a huge difference on my gratitude and my own personal happiness and mindset. So if you're on this journey towards consuming less or consuming more mindfully, I wish you luck. I know you can do it. It's just baby steps, little tips. Pause, think, reevaluate all of these purchases as you're about to make them, and you'll definitely see a difference in your life. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, you guys. Like and subscribe if you liked this video. Share it with some friends or family members that you might think would like it. And let me know your favorite way to purchase more mindfully down below, or if there are any great sustainable shopping websites that you enjoy, please share with the rest of us. And I wish you all a happy weekend. Take time for yourselves, be kind to yourselves, and I'll see you next week.